everyone, it's Jan from Jan Plans Things, and today I have a really exciting video for you because I'm going to be doing a test swatch and practice watercolor with some of my new handmade watercolors. I was really excited to receive this in the mail, and as you can see, normally I would show you the box it came in, but I was so excited that I just ripped everything apart. That's okay. These are handmade watercolors from A.gallo Watercolors. It's by a really wonderfully nice girl named Alina, and she sent me two of these cards, so these dot cards that I'll swatch as well, just so you can see their color range, and as well as this set. And this book. This is their watercolor book that they've just been making, I think, and it has 100% cotton watercolor paper. So I'm really excited to try this in the future. It's got like stitched binding in the center, and then you can kind of see the stitching here. So I'm gonna test this later on, but I kind of want to save it for now, so I won't use it for this review. But I have this box that it came in. So I ordered a 12 set of colors. Let me show you. This is pretty. I've always loved when there's a little bit of attention to detail. So it's got this little bright gold sticker with A.gallo Handmade in Italy on the front, and it's a little protective bubble wrap. Sorry again if I'm all like nasally, I'm still allergic to the entire planet. Okay, so then it's got this really pretty tissue paper. I'm going to try and slide it out. Ooh. This is gorgeous. It says on the front, honey watercolors, something in Italian that I'm not going to try and say and offend everyone. It's made in Assisi and handmade in Italy. It's got A.gallo, so her signature on the front. So I'm just going to slide this out of the box. I feel like I've read in her stories that these are, this is like handmade marbled Italian paper. It's so lovely. It's so pretty. I've always been fascinated with this technique. I saw it for the first time when I went to Italy for a holiday. So here is the watercolor set. And ooh, look how cute is this box. Ooh, so I've got a little swatch card here. Choking hazard. And flip. Ooh, how pretty. And it's got a little travel brush as well. Size 8. This looks like a synthetic one. I think this is kind of cool. This is like my favorite type of style of travel brush, where it's got like this metal thing here. It's got a hole at the top so that when it dries, it doesn't get like it doesn't hold all the water in and actually cause it to become moldy. So there's that, and it's got a little silver barrel. I think this might be synthetic. I'm not. Probably. This is synthetic. And it's made in Varjo, Italy. So that's really, really cool. And then here are the watercolors. Now, let's see if I can pull this tray out. Again, much success. Now, how do I... Okay, now, here are my watercolors. And they've all got hand-painted little labels and the little swatch colors on the top, and they're really nice and bright. So I picked this set because I reckon it would be a great set to kind of start with as a like a mixing set. You might be able to do quite a lot with it. So this one, it says honey watercolors on the front, and then it also says what the pigment is, single pigment, and then the gum. Then it's using gum arabic binder. So this is this. So I'm gonna do some peeling of the paints, so just leave this with me and I'll be right back afterwards. I actually don't know why I say leave this with me, because I kind of just filmed this right afterwards, don't I? I'm learning, guys. So the packaging for these, they came in like that nice card that I saw that was hand painted, and then they've also got this like non-stick layer underneath, I guess, so the paints don't stick to the paper. What I'm doing now when you see me swatching is I'm just going to run as pigmented line as I can across the top, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of water underneath because I kind of want to see how the paints granulate. So that means like how the paints move through the water. So some of the paints, they kind of just stay in one spot. as much as and they don't really move, while some actually disperse through the water really well. So it's kind of like an interesting way to see how the pigment reacts with water, and I find that really good to know because it means you have more control over the effect of it later on. I'm also going to leave this to dry overnight so that I can really see how much the paint actually moves, because if you notice, like the Indigo Genuine, which is the second blue on the right hand side on the very right, you can kind of see that it's moved all the way down. So it's a very fast moving pigment. So I find this very, very interesting. And then with the black line, I can determine whether or not the colors are transparent or a little bit opaque, so I can understand how I'm going to paint them with them, like over black lines, or change my style a little bit depending on how I use it. Okay, so I've just finished swatching all of the colours, and you can see in the first set here they're a little bit paler because these are the natural pigments, so they use natural earth and plant-based pigments, and you can see because of that there's like beautiful granulation in all the colours. There's some notes in her literature that basically say that Indigo Genuine is not light fast, so it might fade in the sun, and she can swap this color out for a synthetic, more permanent version. She also sent me a couple of other extra colors which are really beautiful, and I just wanted to mention, like, these dots are extremely generous, which is really cool. So I reckon you could paint quite a bit with one of these dot cards, so they're excellent value. And then after that, we've also got some lovely pure pigment colors here, and it's got a really bright, lovely ultramarine, which is one of my go-to colors because you can mix it with burnt sienna or red to make some really lovely grays. There is also a tinting color here, that's the Payne's gray, that can be used as well. And so basically we've got 3 earths, the greens, the blues, 2 reds and 2 yellows. And I think it's a pretty excellent starting set if you want to mix colors. Like, this is probably my favorite green, the sap green, but you could probably mix something similar using the chromium oxide with either lemon or Indian yellow. So if you're starting out with watercolors, I do recommend you just start with a simpler basic set of colors so that you get more used to mixing the colors and understanding the color theory behind everything. So all in all, I think this is a really nice little set, and I'm going to try and do my Inktober page. I think today's theme is going to be Star. I did a version of this previously, but I didn't like it, so I'm going to try again, and I'm going to try and just use the A.gallo colors. So let's see how we go. All right. Now, I'm very much a newbie when it comes to learning about watercolor paints. Maybe like 3 weeks ago, I did a little journal meetup with Shane Chan and Peppercorn Arts. And Peppercorn, that's Connie, and she makes a bunch of watercolor, handmade watercolors as well. And I've just been learning from her about pigment. She's like my pigment sensei. So every time I have a question about something, I can ask those two. They're kind of like my watercolor brains trust, if that makes sense. And they've been teaching me a lot about pigments because I'm very self-taught. I've done just a couple of tutorials on Skillshare and stuff like that. But otherwise, I've kind of just learned everything myself. So it's really great to understand a little bit more about the pigments because there's just a lot of information that I'd never really even considered before. For example, where the colors are from, what type of colors are natural, what type of colors stain, which colors don't. And so this time around, I'm paying a little bit more attention to how the colors react. So I'm using colors that when I swatch, they look extremely flat, and the reason for that is because of the style I want with this painting. Is kind of like soft and glowy, so I've tried to pick colors that don't have any granulation, which means like they look extremely smooth, and that normally means that the particles are quite small so that they sit on the paper really smooth. At least that's what Connie told me, so thank you. And so I'm just trying to make sure I pick those colors. So I'm picking a few of the colors from the natural set, mostly the ochres, and then the other ones are mostly the synthetic colors because they're a little bit stronger and brighter. I'm diluting them a lot just to get small like soft washes instead of really heavy washes, because I want more control of the color over the color, and I want to build it up over time. And I find that because I'm using watercolor paper instead of journal paper, which is a little bit different, I can kind of just place the color and it'll slowly move across. The one thing about that though is that it does take a lot longer to dry, so sometimes I'm a little bit impatient. The paint actually is still moving, so you can see me coming back in and just dabbing that paint away. And if you're fast enough, I find that, you know, you can really do that. The other thing is, this is for Inktober, and instead of inking it with like a black or a Pentel pocket brush pen like I normally do, I'm actually going to try and ink it with like a much more pigmented version of the watercolor. So what I'll do then is I'll dip the watercolor into with the water, but I'll use a lot less water to make it as dark as possible. And I feel like I'll just do slightly complementary line work to make it look a little bit more dreamy, because I find it like it's kind of like a childhood type of drawing with the Pinocchio drawing. So I wanted it to be kind of like very soft, kind of what you would see in a nursery almost. And so that was kind of like the concept of this. So I'm not doing a lot of tonal shading, just very soft shading. So what I'm doing is I'm going through with the brushes and slowly just patting a bit of pigment. And I'm always using almost the same pool of paint that I'm using, and I'm just going back and slowly layering the colors instead of making it dark all at once. Now I'm using the A.gallo for almost everything except for the hair there, where I had mixed the tinting grey with some of the burnt sienna, the burnt umber, the Payne's grey and the burnt umber, but I wanted it even just a little bit darker, so I used a little bit of the Daniel Smith black with that to make it darker. And that's something that's apparently very naughty to do, because you can build up tone with watercolor just by mixing the correct colors together, because you can make grays very easily that way. But I was just being a little bit lazy because I wanted to go hang out with my cat, so I just did that instead. Oh, sorry, my camera ran out of batteries then, so there was a little skip. So I'm using the Genuine Indigo on the top, and I'd mentioned before that the Genuine Indigo isn't light fast, but because this is staying in a sketchbook, I'm not too worried about that because it's going to be barely exposed to light. And I'm using the burnt umber and the Payne's grey just to tint the Payne's grey a little bit warmer when I'm doing the shadows and laying them down. And then you can kind of see like the pictures coming together already. And at the beginning I used a masking fluid around the star, because this is actually the second time I've drawn this prompt, because the first time I did mask the star and it looked really bad, because it's really hard to control your brush and paint around shapes like that. It's much the washes look much more natural if you can kind of paint around it, if that makes sense. So that's just something to consider, because if you can kind of wash over the whole area, you're not really worried about the paint creating that like pigment edge that you get sometimes, the hard edge with the brush. What I'm doing now is, like I've mentioned before, I'm just using a more pigmented version of each of the colors that I had painted with to outline it. So I'm using the blue pigments to outline the blue areas, and reds and browns around the applicable areas, and just grays around the areas that should be white. And I feel like that kind of really softens the whole overall image. I mean, I think it's important for me during Inktober to try a whole bunch of different styles and techniques so I can learn a little bit more, because it does force me to draw every day. So I am taking a little bit of risks in terms of I'm not drawing the same way every day. I do want to try something different, and I'm really happy with how this is looking at the moment. And look how soft and lovely the watercolors look. So I'm quite happy with this set actually. I'm just going through now and just lining Jiminy Cricket. I'm using all the brushes by White Knights. They're the Kolinsky brushes, but they're much cheaper than a couple of the others, and I find that they work pretty well. And I'm quite enjoying using those brushes actually. They don't hold as much water as the Series 7 Winsor Newtons, but for their price they are good, good bang for your buck. I'm just using some white gouache there to just outline the hair, because I didn't want to outline with black. I kind of wanted to glow a little bit more. You can see there I've just removed the masking fluid, and because I kind of sealed the pencil lead in, it wasn't really rubbing out. So to get around that, I'm just slowly building up some yellow. So I've wet around the star, so I've wet the whole area, so that when I'm dabbing the paint in, it slowly disperses around to give it that soft glow that you get. And I'm using a whole bean gouache there. It's the gold color. I think it's G644, and it's glittery gold. was really surprised with this one. So I've just finished doing this painting with the A.gallo paints, and I had to, sorry, I was just using this as a comparison sheet, and I've tried to pick the colors that are the least granulating because I wanted quite a flat image, and I found the colors were just really lovely and beautiful and soft. So I did use a little bit of the genuine indigo at the top here to get this soft blue wash. I think you can, if you look at the swatch, get it to be quite dark. But I think the thing is, like, I find the pigments extremely soft in color as well. And I did try and use a little bit of the Natural palette, which has like the Italy Gold Ochre. And these colors I find are a lot aren't as like pigmented as they would be if they were in the Daniel Smith, but I think that kind of suits this style of painting very, very well. And I've seen a lot of people do really beautiful dreamy paintings with this paint, so I think that's like, it's really suited for that. Some of the colors like the vermilion red are like extremely like bright, and you can see that because I managed to achieve such a flat wash that the colors are actually extremely fine. So the pigments are very, very fine, so that you can get that really fine color work throughout your painting. So I quite enjoyed that. I think next time I might try and do a little bit of painting with some of the more granulating colors to see the effects on them, but I'm overall really, really happy with this. I find that like there's like just beautiful soft glows to the paint. And what I've done is I've also used the Holbein just to be a little bit different because there wasn't a gold in the set. I've used the Holbein gold gouache, which is different to the mica gold that I was using previously with the Finetec, because I found that I could just dab it on, but there's like a lot of really large glitter particles in it that kind of make it sit around. So that kind of brings me to the conclusion of this. I mean, they're really beautiful. They're really, really beautiful paints. They're a little bit different to say, like, this is my peppercorn. This is my peppercorn set, and you can kind of see they're a little bit more raised compared to the ones from A.gallo. So it's just a little bit different in the way the paint is mulled and put together. But I think that, you know, they're quite affordable for handmade watercolors as well, and I think themselves like they're just like beautiful dreamy colors. So if this is something that you like this soft, the smoothness of the paint, and that's like the type of style you like painting in, they have an excellent set of basics for that, and the classics I think really do well with those. So these colors, compared to say if you wanted to try a few more of the granulating ones like for landscapes, there's that option as well. So that's it, and I hope you guys enjoyed that that little overview, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye.